It's hot and it's humid out here in Kona, and as you can see, I'm a bit of a sweaty mess. I am absolutely dying to go and jump in that ocean, but before I do, I have to get on these scales. And this is all part of a scientific sweaty experiment which began back home in the UK. Yep, back to the dull grey British weather, and for once, we actually require this contrast. With the help of Precision Fuel and Hydration, I'm going to be comparing the amount I sweat on a steady run here compared to that in Hawaii, and seeing just how our bodies adapt and how to ensure that we're hydrating adequately. Okay, quick prep before I go for this run. I've got clear instructions from Emily that I have to have my last pee and I have to then weigh myself without any clothes on. So I'm gonna go and do that bit privately, and then it'll be time to head out on the run. See you in a moment. Got the numbers that I need. I'm now out into the cold of the UK. I'll see you in 60 minutes. So I'm doing a 60-minute steady run here in the cold UK. I mean, it's not freezing today, but certainly cooler than it will be when we get to Kona. I'm wearing the same clothes that I plan to wear, and basically keeping everything as controlled, including the pace, the clothing, everything that I can control, so that when we go to Kona, the one thing that we can't will be the climate. Hopefully that will be the key difference. And the idea is to see how my sweat in its rate and concentration compares. And one thing that's important to note, I will not be doing any heat acclimatization between now and when we repeat this out in Kona. Really got a stitch. Okay, 1 hour done. And I am bursting for a pee, but I'm not allowed to go until I've gone and weighed myself. So a quick jump on the scales again, have a pee, have a shower, and I'll be back with some numbers. Well, I'm clean and showered, and I've given my numbers to Emily, and you've had a quick crunch, but they're quite straightforward. Do you want to run through my sweat loss?
Quite simple, really. So you lost 0.8% of your body weight.
Okay.
Over an hour-long run, that was just 500 ml per hour. In terms of your sweat sodium concentration, we know it's about 840 milligrams per litre. So over that hour run, you lost 420 milligrams. Quite simple.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, this is really the sort of first part of the video, and the more interesting bit is going to be when we compare. Just from that, and knowing roughly like how hot it's going to be out in Hawaii, like, do you have any rough predictions or guesstimations of what we might expect to see?
It's a tricky question because it varies from person to person, and the amount that it will go up will be different from person to person, but overall it could be up to 3 times greater.
Okay. I mean, is that, for in these conditions, me losing 500 ml, is that like 0.8%, is that a lot, medium? Like, where does that put me in the sort of sweat rate?
Yeah, quite moderate in the middle there. Obviously, it was quite mild today, and you weren't running at too fast a pace, so just kind of a moderate sweat rate there. Okay, so we really don't know much of what to go on. So I'm intrigued to see, what's going to happen in Kona. So I will see you in a couple of weeks when we'll be sat sweating away, probably. Yeah, see you out there.
Cool. My gosh, I have forgotten just how hot it is out here in Hawaii. I'm enjoying that sea breeze at the moment, and it's only around 25, 26 degrees, and we apparently need to wait a little longer until later in the day when the heat has really built up to go and do this 60-minute run. Wish me luck. Well, I don't think it's going to get any hotter, and we're not allowed to wait till it gets colder, Andy. Biggest challenge is, I think, for you running as slow as me, and for me running as fast as I ran at home. But
yeah, it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it.
You're looking forward to an hour of sweating.
Yeah, this is why I've flown for 20 hours, whatever it is, to get here.
I hope you brought a good chat, because I'm going to need some entertainment. Right, 1 hour.
Let's do it.
Here we go. halfway, and we're actually on the downhill. Suddenly there's a bit of cloud cover and a bit of breeze, and I'm quite enjoying this. But Andy, like, when it's windy, obviously I don't feel like I'm sweating, but how relative is that? Like, it's still hot, but we don't feel so hot. So how's that going to compare?
Yeah, so when we were running the other way here, this is quite a light breeze, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely.
And when you were running in that direction, I think we were moving a very similar pace to the wind. So it felt, and you were effectively moving in dead air.
Yeah.
And that air movement across the body that we're now getting doubled because we're running into a headwind is actually taking the sweat that's evaporating off your skin away.
So quite
so
a
you're
lot.
still sweating, but you are
I'm
cooling way more effectively. So I think there is a perceptual difference, but there's an actual difference as well. You know, you are losing heat a little bit more efficiently.
Like the drips on my forehead have just gone.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could, go out to dinner now.
Yeah. Well, that's because when the sweat drips off, you don't get much cooling effect.
Right.
But when it evaporates off, it takes a load of heat with it. So, yeah, that's the difference. Because when we turned that corner, I felt like, ooh, we're going into an oven.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you feel it coming up off the tarmac.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
So Andy, have you got any tips for people who just want to go and do this themselves? Like, they want to go out to a hot place, or even, run in a hot treadmill in the gym and just sort of work out their sweat rate? Like, how do you go about it in short?
Very simply, accurate set of scales.
Yep.
Weigh yourself before you start your session. And then if you're going to drink something, weigh yourself holding the bottle, because obviously then that takes that drinking into account. Take off any clothes for weighing yourself that will hold sweat. If you're weighing yourself in the gym, don't take off all your clothes, because that can result in court cases. Once you've, the main thing though to remember is that your sweat rate that you record will be relevant to the speed you run at or cycle at or whatever it is, and the conditions that you're in. So what we're going to learn today is how much we sweat in an hour of running in this exact temperature, like high 20s, 70% humidity.
At a very comfortable pace.
20 a k or whatever,
a bit
15 a k.
Slower than the race pace. I did that on purpose, but now I'm thinking maybe we should have done race pace.
Well, the thing is, you would see a huge change if you shifted the pace up or down. So don't be fooled into thinking you can measure your sweat rate once. If I was serious about this with an athlete doing a race, you'd want to replicate all of the parameters and probably do it 2 or 3 times at least to make sure you're getting an even average. Okay,
and we're doing an hour. Is that like the best protocol?
Hour's simple for the maths, because you want to know your hourly sweat rate. But honestly, we've got a spreadsheet that we give to people. So if we did 72 minutes, it would just factor it back down to 60 or whatever. So, but what you want to do is a kind of decent chunk of time. There's no point in doing 15 minutes because it's probably going to take you 10 to start sweating. And
what about, like, we were talking about earlier, when you stop, like, I don't feel too bad, but I know when I stop I'm going to start sweating. Like, so what do you do about that?
Well, you can't really do much other than weigh yourself fairly quickly afterwards. You accept that if you take 2 minutes to go and weigh yourself, you'll be sweating for 2 more minutes. But honestly, that probably goes into counteracting the fact you weren't sweating for the first few minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, what you don't want to be doing is leaving it for 15 or 20 minutes. And also not going to the toilet if you can help it.
I know, that's my biggest challenge. I need a wee now. Don't talk about it, don't talk about it.
Well, we're nearly there. 12 minutes to go.
Cool. Oh, bang on.
Bang on.
Nice one. Good pacing.
Thank you.
Let it drop. We can't wait too long because we've got to go weigh, haven't we, before? Because I actually, until now, I'm not dripping. I'm about to start dripping.
Wish I could say the same. It's like I've been feeling it running down my back and dripping on the back of my legs for the last 10 minutes. No, I've been worse. I think that running into the wind has helped everything dry. I expected to be a bit sweatier, to be honest with you.
I did.
It's good.
I mean, I'm almost wear this top again, I reckon.
Good bit of chatting makes an hour go.
I know, it flew by.
Fast, doesn't it?
Right, I better go grab those scales. Partly because I need a wee and then I can do that.
Weigh out.
Okay, I've just thought before we go and weigh ourselves, we did our predictions early on when it felt like it was going to be hotter and now the wind's come. Have you got a revised one just before you go?
I've got to revise it down actually, because I thought the good thing you could guaranteed in Hawaii is you're going to get the most baking conditions. And that was hot, but it wasn't It wasn't insane, was
No,
it? So
I was loving it.
So I'm going to say more like probably 1.3 for me.
Okay.
Like
I reckon I'm not going to be that much more than I was at home. Maybe 750.
you were skipping along. You were very efficient. You seemed just like you were loving life.
I was, yeah. So I'm going to go for 750.
Go for it.
Should we go find out?
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, weigh-in done. What was your numbers?
I was down at 71.3 just then.
Okay, I was 59.65. We're not going to do the exact maths just yet. We're going to go and cool off. I'm desperate to go and jump in that sea, but I'm not as thirsty as I thought I'd be. How are you feeling after that?
I was pretty thirsty actually, to be honest. Yeah, I could have. I drank, or I had a half-litre bottle, and I put that away without any trouble.
Oh really? I've literally had a few sips. And maybe I'm actually wanting some crisps. I don't know if that's hunger or salt, but yeah, it'll be interesting. Well, we'll go and cool off, and we will regroup and have a little bit of a look at the stats.
Sounds like a good idea.
Cool. Cheers, Andy. Off to the sea. Well, we've recovered, we've cooled down and stopped sweating, and I think I've rehydrated. How long did it take you to kind of get rid of that thirst, Andy?
All evening. I was drinking, it was going in, and it wasn't coming out again.
Yeah, I was surprised at how thirsty I was, I must admit. But anyway, that's our feeling. I want to look at the numbers. I know you've got them there.
Yeah.
I know Emily's obviously helped us calculate those, but as you ran with me, do you want to run us through?
Yeah, she's done a fantastic job giving us the summary. But so yesterday on the run, I lost 1.6 kilograms, so 1.6 litres of fluid, which is about 2.2% of my body weight.
Okay.
Which is interesting because theoretically, it's not a hard and fast rule, but beyond 2% body weight loss, that's what a lot of the scientific papers suggest. That's where your performance starts to deteriorate.
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
And because I lose a lot of sodium in my sweat, I lose just under 1.8 grams per litre.
Yeah.
My total sodium loss would have been around 2,700 milligrams in a single hour.
In 1 hour,
which is a lot. That's almost the recommended daily allowance of what most people should eat, lost in 1 hour. Your numbers from yesterday were you lost 1.2 litres an hour.
I was really surprised at that. Yeah.
Yeah, and which is 2% of your body weight, so not far off.
So I'm on that cusp.
And it was compared with 0.5 litres an hour in the cooler conditions.
Yeah.
So your sweat rate was over double. My sweat rate was exactly four times what it was in the cold conditions.
But you were really cold, weren't you?
Yeah, it's 4 degrees.
Yeah.
You have much more dilute sweat though in terms of the sodium you lose. So in that 1 hour, you only lost 1,000 milligrams of sodium. So that just over a third of what I lost.
Yeah. And temperature-wise, what did we measure that at yesterday?
It was 26, 27, but it felt closer to 29, 30 with the humidity, which is pretty warm, but I think we both found it was pretty warm, but it wasn't as savagely hot as we expected. Like, ironically, today is almost hotter.
I know, I think already, and it's like, early in the morning. I know, I literally was like, I'm loving this. I felt really, and that's why I was surprised I sweated so much, because I just felt really comfortable and really good. But and it's funny that there was just that grey, cloudy day, but even though it was only 27 or 26, whatever, to still lose that much, like if it had been a hot day, and then you put that into an Ironman, it's quite crazy. I mean, you talked about that 2% being the performance drop-off. Like, if I was just rehydrating like I did in the UK, what would happen to my performance over a longer period?
In a short period, you probably wouldn't start to feel it affecting you too much. If it was if you compounded that, so if you didn't drink and you ended up 4% dehydrated after 2 hours, then I think you would be feeling really lousy. You would probably be very, very thirsty, and your performance would be starting to decline. So we do sometimes see in longer races athletes dropping 4, 5, 6% body weight at the end, but some of that, when you get into a very long race, is also glycogen that's been burnt, so it's not all fluid loss. But we were probably, and I felt that, like, I didn't drink on the run, and neither did you, but for me, the last 15 minutes, it was like, if I was carrying on, I would definitely need to drink in order to keep myself going.
Yeah, to sort of top that up. And how much? So, like, say, I lost 1.2 litres in that hour. If I was racing for 10 hours, how much should I be looking at that intensity? We have to obviously caveat that we were going steady yesterday, which we know would have made a difference. But if I was going at that intensity for 10 hours, how much should I be aiming to replace every hour?
You would probably, to start off with, to make it simple, you wouldn't want to replace 100% of your losses.
Okay.
So if you were losing 1.2 litres an hour, you're not going to try and drink 1.2 litres an hour. You're going to replace a proportion of it. That proportion in a long race is going to be probably more than half but less than 100%. So you're in that kind of, as a really ballpark figure, we'd maybe suggest would be 70% or something like that.
Okay.
But there's a few dynamics at play, because the shorter the race, the less you can get away with replacing, because you've not got as long to become dehydrated.
Yeah.
The longer the race, if you go really extreme, say we're doing an ultra for 20 hours, you're going to have to get a lot closer to that 100% replacement, because over time you would become, otherwise the drop off, the steepness of the graph would mean that your performance really starts to drop off. So
okay. And what if people were doing like, right, I'm going to be so good, I'm going to do 105% or whatever or more? Like, are there dangers there?
Yes, definitely. If you overdrink, if you drink more than you're sweating out, and especially if it's fluids that are low in sodium, you risk a condition called hyponatremia, which is where you dilute your blood sodium levels down. Athletes have died from that because it causes your brain to swell. It's a very nasty thing. And actually there's data to show that, I think they took some data from the Frankfurt Ironman over a number of years, showing that 10 or 11% of finishers are finishing the race slightly hyponatremic because people are over drinking. So, like we always say, it's a balancing act. It's quite individual. Looking at those numbers there, like, I'm going to have to drink more than you. I'm certainly going to have to take on more salt than you. But we've both got to figure out our own recipe.
Yeah, and say, like, we've not been here very long. I've been here a tiny bit longer than you, but and I did no acclimatization. But if I had done heat prep at home, would I expect to see the same sweat rate, or would it be better, like lower, if I'm more used to it? And how long would it take me to kind of get better at running or racing in these conditions?
Yeah, the good thing about heat is your body can acclimate and change quite a bit in a relatively short space of time. One of the acclimation effects that you get when you train in the heat is that your sweat rate actually goes up rather than coming down.
And that one really surprises me, you said this just before we went to talk about it, and because I just thought, I'll get better and I'll be less sweaty and I won't look such a sweaty mess when I'm walking around in Hawaii.
But no, your body will sweat more. It will learn to sweat more, because sweating is, as we felt when we had the breeze blown over us, that evaporation of sweat is what cools you down. So your sweat rate will dial up a little bit. And that's going to be, that is going to be one of the principal adaptations that happens. So if you do either heat prep in a heat chamber before you come here, or in the first few days when you're here, it's generally accepted that 5 days of heat acclimation gets you a long way towards being acclimated, and 14 days is full acclimation. And
so why, if someone I think, if you don't sweat so much, that's better. Like, I sweat less than my partner, so I'm like, I'm better in the heat. But that's not necessarily true then?
Not necessarily true at all. We've worked with athletes who really don't sweat, and their biggest problem is then they overheat. So my biggest problem racing was usually dehydration or hyponatremia, like getting enough fluid and salts in. They have this problem where they don't need to drink a lot because they're not sweating a lot, but they get so hot, their core body temperature rises. So those athletes are people that need to then dump water over themselves, because that's kind of external sweat.
That's the way of cooling.
You just pour water on yourself and it evaporates off. And it's why even people that have high sweat rates, you'll see, like in the Tour de France classically, and here in Kona, you'll see athletes, they'll take a bottle of water from the aid station, they'll drink some of it, and some of it obviously
but it's also it feels nice as well.
It feels great,
And you've talked about people maybe not sweating at all. Like, how little have you seen, and how much have you seen in all of the measurements you guys have done?
Yeah, we've come across some athletes who barely sweat at all. We're talking like fractionally every hour, like a couple of 100 millilitres, even when they're working hard. And they're those people that really struggle to perform in the heat. But at the other end of the spectrum, we've come across athletes that sweat over 3 litres per hour, and they really, really struggle in conditions like we were running in. Because,
and just to carry that.
Yeah, to carry it, to access it, for your gut to be able to absorb it. It's like an Achilles heel for those people for racing in the heat. So most people, if we took an average, we're probably going to find that people racing in, say, Ironman conditions in hot weather, they might sweat between 1 litre and 1.5 litres per hour, and that is very much, you can cope with that. Yeah. We often do see people drinking 1 litre or so an hour in conditions like Kona, and replacing enough of what they're losing to have a good race and get to the finish. But if you're up at 3.5 litres an hour, it's a serious challenge.
And if you're someone that maybe is like, I don't know, for me that makes me go, I don't want to go and heat acclimatise, because then I'm going to sweat more, so I'm going to have to drink more and I have to think about that. But
there's more to heat acclimatisation than just that, though. So I think your body adapts in a lot of different ways, and actually up-regulating your sweat rate a little bit, especially because like looking at this, your sweat rate comes out very much in the normal range, so you've got a little bit of headroom.
Yeah.
And it's probably a good thing rather than a bad thing.
It's also probably a good thing that I am not racing, because that was a very steady run yesterday. I felt fine, but yeah, it's easy to run on the energy lab when you've not done any cycling and you're running at a casual pace chatting. So I mean, a massive thanks, Andy, to you and to Emily for helping with this back home. I'm glad you're feeling better. If you guys have found this fascinating, I certainly have, and obviously we've talked about some tips, but if you want the actual instructions, PFNH have a whole sort of blog on exactly how to do it, and we'll leave that in the description below. If you've got any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. If I can't answer them, I'm sure these guys will be taking a glance at the comments, and it will be able to help. Well, thanks, Andy, so much again, and hopefully if you guys have enjoyed it, do support us by hitting the like button.